There's a quiet rule that decides who taps out and who turns dangerous at anything they touch. Most people never see it. They blame talent, timing, or luck. They say, she's gifted, or he was born for this, and then they go back to scrolling, comforted by a story that protects their ego. But look closer. The people who climb fast don't move like lottery winners. They move like engineers. Their progress looks planned. They don't hop from trick to trick. They build pressure, then release it, then disappear into a level of ease that feels unfair to everyone watching. Think about the friend who picked up guitar and was clean within months, or the coworker who switched careers and somehow spoke the new language in a year, or the creator who went from zero to a real audience while others sat in a swamp of ideas. At first you call it luck. Then you notice they're not lucky twice. They're consistent 3 times, 5 times, 10. That's not luck. That's a system. Here's the twist. Nobody wants to admit learning isn't just collecting information. Learning is building a sequence inside your body that your mind can eventually stop narrating. The beginners that stay beginners try to think their way to mastery. The outliers build their way there. They treat skill like architecture, foundation, frame, finish, never in reverse. And when you watch them up close, you'll see a rhythm. Periods of almost boring precision, followed by sharp experimentation, followed by effort that looks like water finding its path. It feels mystical from the outside. It's mechanical from the inside. That rhythm has a name, and it's older than your favorite productivity hack. It's a 3-step engine designed in dojos and kitchens and workshops long before algorithms ran our days. Follow, bend, become. Miss the first verb and the other 2 never arrive. Most people miss it. They chase novelty, buy more courses, and call it momentum. Then they wake up a year later with the same hands, the same output, and a new excuse. If you're tired of that loop, good. Because once you understand this engine, you stop asking, am I talented enough? And start asking the only question that matters. Am I willing to run the sequence long enough for it to run me? Keep that in your head as we go forward. In a minute, you'll see exactly how the first stage rewires your practice, why skipping it kills long-term speed, and how to turn repetition from punishment into a lever that quietly builds an unfair advantage. Sure, the humble copy. Every beginner dreams of being creative. They want to add flair before they've even built form. They want to skip the boring stage and head straight into mastery. That's why most people fail. They mistake interest for progress. But the first stage of mastery, Shu, doesn't care about how interested you are. It only cares about how precisely you can copy. Shu means to obey, to follow the path, without trying to rewrite it. Picture Aiko, the 19-year-old apprentice in a Tokyo sushi shop. On her first day, she thought she'd be learning how to slice fish. Instead, the master handed her a cloth and said, "Wipe the counter." Again, she did it for hours. The same movement, the same pressure, until her wrists ached. Then she was given rice. "Wash it," the master said, "until the water runs clear." That was her job for 6 weeks. She didn't touch a knife. She didn't season the rice. She wasn't allowed near the fish. Every day she stood behind the counter, repeating motions that felt insultingly simple. But the master wasn't training her hands. He was training her mind to stop fighting repetition. That's the first wall you'll hit when you enter Shu. Your ego, your brain screams, "This is too basic. I already know this." But that's a lie. You don't know it until your body can do it without thinking. In Shu, thinking is the enemy. Every time you analyze, you interrupt the flow that turns conscious effort into unconscious skill. Scientists call this process motor pattern consolidation. Each precise repetition strengthens neural connections in the cerebellum, the brain's coordination center, until the movement becomes reflexive. If you quit halfway or start adding your own touch too early, you're not learning the skill. you're learning your mistakes. This is why the best fighters, musicians, and coders in the world are obsessed with fundamentals. The black belt still drills basic strikes. The virtuoso still plays scales. The elite programmer still rewrites the same logic loop until it's elegant, because they know the same truth. Aiko learned in that kitchen. Perfection is built on boredom. Most people want speed. Masters want accuracy. They'd rather do one motion 1,000 times than 1,000 motions once. After 3 months, something subtle started to change. The rice no longer felt like grains. It felt like texture, temperature, density, data. Aiko could tell if it was overcooked by sound alone. When the chef finally handed her a knife, it didn't feel foreign. Her fingers, wrists, and breathing had already been shaped by the discipline of repetition. That was Shu at work, invisible progress, stored in muscle and nerve, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And here's the part most people miss. Shu isn't just about skill. It's about identity. When you obey completely, you kill the illusion that mastery is about being special. It humbles you into precision. It forces you to stop chasing stimulation and start building substance. Shu strips away the comfort of personality and replaces it with something permanent. Foundation. You stop trying to express yourself and start trying to be accurate. And ironically, that obedience is what later allows creativity to explode. Because when your fundamentals are flawless, expression no longer needs effort. It simply happens. By the end of month 3, Aiko's movements were unrecognizable, smooth, efficient, silent. Her master didn't congratulate her. He just placed a tray of fresh tuna before her and said, "Now ruin it." That's how she knew she was finally ready to begin learning. Shu had done its job. It had emptied her of impatience. It had built the silence where mastery starts to speak. But that silence wouldn't last long, because the next stage would test everything she thought she understood about learning itself. Why Shu works. If you ask most people why they quit learning something, they'll tell you they got bored. But boredom isn't a signal to stop. It's a signal that your brain is beginning to automate. The early phase of skill building feels slow because your conscious mind is doing all the heavy lifting. You're overthinking every motion, every detail, every outcome. You have to remind yourself constantly. Place your fingers here, breathe this way, press at this angle. It feels unnatural because it is unnatural. You're forcing awareness into places where your body hasn't built instinct yet. Neuroscientists have a term for this: the cognitive stage of learning. It's the most uncomfortable phase, the one where you feel clumsy and uncoordinated. But this awkwardness is proof that your brain is literally rewiring itself. When you practice correctly, neurons fire in new sequences, building highways between the motor cortex and cerebellum, the region that controls precision and rhythm. Each repetition strengthens those connections, coating them in myelin, a fatty layer that allows signals to travel faster and smoother. The thicker that coating, the more automatic the skill becomes. This is why elite athletes and musicians talk about muscle memory. It's not magic, it's myelin. But here's the part that separates mastery from mediocrity: consistency of signal. The brain doesn't build automation out of chaos. It builds automation out of coherence. If your repetitions are sloppy or constantly changing, your brain never gets the stable data it needs to solidify the pattern. You end up training hesitation. You install hesitation into your nervous system. That's why the saying "practice makes perfect" is wrong. The truth is perfect practice makes permanent. This is why people who chase novelty stay beginners forever. Every time you switch teachers, techniques, or methods, you reset the pattern. Your brain dumps the half-formed pathway and starts again. You might feel like you're learning more, but what you're really doing is interrupting consolidation. the deep wiring process that turns effort into instinct. The ones who advance faster aren't necessarily smarter or more talented. They just understand how the brain learns. They know that mastery isn't built in bursts of enthusiasm. It's built in waves of repetition. That's why martial artists drill the same kick 10,000 times. That's why pianists practice scales until the keys blur. They're not chasing variety. They're carving a neural groove so deep that the motion can never be lost. But it's not just about the brain. Shu changes your psychology. It forces you to face the discomfort that comes before transformation. When you repeat something endlessly, your mind fights back. It tells you you're wasting time, that you already understand it, that you should move on. That's your ego resisting humility. Shu teaches you to sit through that resistance until it breaks. It rewires not just your neurons, but your patience. And here's where the paradox appears. Once repetition becomes automatic, something beautiful happens. Your brain starts freeing up bandwidth. The cognitive load drops. You stop thinking about how to move and start noticing why it works. This is where creativity is born, not from forcing originality, but from mastering the boring so deeply that boredom itself disappears. In this stage, Aiko, the apprentice from before, didn't just learn how to cut fish. She learned rhythm, pressure, silence. She started to see micro-patterns. Others missed how temperature changed texture, how the weight of the knife guided the cut. Her awareness expanded precisely because her conscious mind was no longer overloaded by technique. That's why Shu works. It's not punishment. It's neurological freedom. It's the slow, invisible transformation from thinking to knowing, from effort to instinct. And once you reach that threshold, you earn the right to step into the next stage. The stage where obedience turns into understanding, and imitation evolves into innovation. Because after Shu comes Ha's, and Ha's is where discipline becomes power. Ha, the principled break. After months of repetition, something inside Aiko shifted. Her hands no longer trembled over the cutting board. She could feel the temperature of rice through the bamboo mat. She didn't need to think about breathing or pressure anymore. It just happened. And one morning, her master quietly told her, "Now you may begin to disobey." That sentence didn't mean rebellion. It meant graduation. In Japanese tradition, Ha translates to detach or break away, but not in the sense of rejecting your teacher. It means breaking the shell that once protected you, so you can grow into your own shape. In the Shu stage, you surrender your ego. In Ha, you reclaim it, but with control. This is the stage where principles begin to outweigh patterns. You start noticing why something works, not just how. Aiko realized the rhythm of her knife wasn't about following an arbitrary rule. It was about managing energy flow, keeping texture alive. The master wasn't teaching her recipes. He was teaching her physics, to someone still trapped in Shu. Ha looks chaotic. You begin blending influences, testing boundaries, borrowing from different schools. A jazz pianist who once drilled scales now starts bending notes between genres. A martial artist who memorized fixed kata begins merging forms until movements become unpredictable. A coder who once copied textbook syntax starts rewriting functions to be cleaner, faster, more elegant. This is the shift from imitation to adaptation. But Ha is dangerous because ego tries to sneak back in wearing a new disguise. I know enough now. This is where many learners plateau forever. They mistake experimentation for mastery. They break the rules too early, not out of insight, but out of impatience. Real Ha only works if your Shu was deep enough. Without solid foundations, experimentation becomes noise. With foundations, it becomes jazz. The difference is subtle but enormous. In true Ha, every variation still honors a principle underneath. You can tell when someone is improvising with structure versus flailing without one. Watch a world-class chef deviate from a recipe. They're not guessing. They're reading humidity, temperature, audience, timing. Their instinct is simply logic absorbed to the point of invisibility. This is also the stage where humility returns in a different form. During Shu, you learned obedience. During Ha, you learn respect for contradiction. You realize that truth often exists in tension between minimalism and abundance, stillness and speed, discipline and play. The second master Aiko trained under favored high aggression and explosive movement. Everything he did contradicted her first teacher's calm precision. For weeks, her mind felt like static, but then she began to see the common thread: efficiency. Whether explosive or still, the principle was always the same. Use no more energy than necessary. Waste nothing. That's the secret of Ha. You stop worshipping technique and start worshipping principles. You realize that mastery isn't about memorizing one perfect way. It's about uncovering the laws that make every way work. Once you grasp those invisible threads, you can move freely within any form, adapting in real time, without losing balance. Ha is the bridge between skill and artistry. It's where your practice stops being a cage and starts being a language. You can now speak through your craft instead of reciting it. But even here, you're still not done. Because Ha, for all its freedom, still depends on deliberate choice. You're still thinking before acting, still translating knowledge into performance. True mastery lies one step beyond that, when thought itself disappears, and what remains is pure, effortless motion. That stage is called the Silent Transcendence, and it's where everything you've learned begins to vanish. Not because you've forgotten, but because you've finally become it. The Silent Transcendence. Imagine walking into Aiko's sushi bar. 5 years later, she doesn't look like she's trying. She moves like wind through paper walls, precise, unhurried, present. There's no trace of effort in her rhythm. Her knife glides, not cuts. Every motion fits the next, like the world bends to accommodate her timing. You might think she's gifted, but what you're seeing isn't talent. It's the stage beyond mastery, where skill becomes instinct and the artist disappears into the act. In Japanese, means to transcend. It's when the structure you once obeyed and the rules you once studied dissolve completely. You don't reject them. You integrate them so deeply that you no longer notice they exist. The movement happens before thought. The decision arrives without deliberation. You're not performing anymore. You're responding. The skill uses you, not the other way around. When neuroscientists studied elite performers, surgeons, martial artists, pianists, they discovered a strange pattern during their peak moments. Activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for conscious decision-making, drops dramatically. It's called transient hypofrontality. Your thinking brain takes a back seat, and older, faster brain regions take control. That's why masters describe feeling like they're watching themselves work. Their bodies execute decisions before their minds can narrate them. This is the biological fingerprint of the state where thought and action fuse into one. Aiko experienced it one night during a chaotic dinner rush. The kitchen was understaffed, the orders piling up, everyone shouting, but in her corner, silence. Her hands moved faster than she could follow, rice forming perfectly, blade catching the light, just enough to slice clean through the fish. She wasn't trying to remember technique. There was no remembering left to do. Her mind had vanished. Only motion remained. Afterward, she couldn't even explain what happened. It felt like time stretched. She told her mentor, "I didn't choose the movements. They just appeared." Her master smiled, the same smile his own teacher once gave him. "Then you finally stopped cooking," he said. "Now the food cooks itself." This is what separates masters from experts. Experts still think. They analyze, compare, adjust. Masters don't need to. Their analysis has been burned into muscle memory, refined into intuition. They no longer rely on conscious choice because every choice has already been rehearsed 10,000 times. Re is the death of hesitation. It's pure presence. You can see this everywhere. A calligrapher whose brush dances as if guided by unseen rhythm. A surfer balancing on a wave that would drown anyone else. A musician closing their eyes and playing notes that have never existed before. To the untrained eye, it looks mystical. To the master, it's just the natural consequence of Shu and heart and correctly. The irony of Re is that it brings you back to simplicity. After years of chasing complexity, you return to stillness, but this time, it's earned. You stop trying to prove your skill because mastery no longer needs proof. Every movement is quiet confidence. Every pause a statement. Re isn't loud. It's subtle, invisible, almost ordinary, because true power never needs to announce itself. This stage can't be rushed. You can't strategize your way into it. You arrive by letting go. That's the hardest part for modern minds obsessed with control. You have to stop forcing mastery and allow it to surface on its own. You don't reach Re by doing more. You reach it by doing less. After doing enough. By the time Aiko realized she was living in Re, she didn't celebrate. She simply bowed to her cutting board, cleaned her station, and began preparing rice again. Because that's the paradox of transcendence. It loops you back to the beginning. You see the basics with new eyes. You start again, humbler, lighter, freer. But while the ancient masters understood this sacred rhythm, modern learners face a new kind of danger, one that quietly kills mastery before it even begins. The modern trap, the illusion of progress. We live in an age that worships shortcuts. Every ad, every course, every life hack promises mastery in a weekend. The modern world has turned learning into fast food, packaged, clickable, instantly gratifying, and nutritionally empty. You can buy a course on any topic in 10 seconds. You can watch 1,000 tutorials in a single afternoon. But somehow, after all that consumption, you still can't do the thing. That's not because you're stupid or lazy. It's because modern learning is designed to feed your ego, not your skill. The ancient apprentices who lived by Shuhari would look at us and laugh. We confuse information with transformation. We think watching someone else practice counts as practice. We think knowing about a skill equals knowing through it. This is the psychological trap of our generation, mistaking stimulation for progress. Every time you scroll, every time you jump from one tutorial to the next, your brain releases dopamine. It feels like achievement, but in reality, you've done nothing but start over again and again. You've become addicted to the illusion of progress. There's a term for this in neuroscience, the variable reward loop. Each new idea or video provides a tiny, unpredictable reward, the same mechanism that keeps gamblers pulling slot machine levers. You feel good, but you don't grow. You stay in motion without moving forward. And because everyone around you is doing the same, it feels normal. But make no mistake, it's the opposite of mastery. It's permanent. Shu without repetition. You're eternally starting, never consolidating. Think about it. How many hobbies have you started in the last few years? Guitar, language learning, fitness, investing, coding. You learn the basics, you hit the wall of boredom, and then you convince yourself that boredom means you've chosen the wrong thing. So you switch. You find a fresh challenge, and you repeat the cycle, collecting more and more unfinished attempts, calling it growth. But what you've really built is a graveyard of abandoned beginnings. The modern education system feeds this problem too. It teaches students to chase grades, not depth. It rewards fast answers, not slow mastery. You get used to measuring success by completion, not comprehension. You move on the moment you can regurgitate facts, not when you've internalized understanding. The result? A generation of smart people who can talk about everything but embody nothing. Even the productivity industry weaponizes this weakness. It sells you complexity disguised as progress. New planners, new systems, new optimization tools. You end up managing your learning instead of doing it. True progress feels repetitive, quiet, sometimes humiliating. You don't get dopamine from drilling scales for the 400th time. You get growth. But most people would rather feel good than get better. The truth is brutal. You cannot binge your way to mastery. You cannot download depth. You can't hack the stages that millions of masters have already walked. You can only walk them yourself. Every genius you admire, from Bruce Lee to Miles Davis to Leonardo da Vinci, lived inside Shu far longer than anyone watching them could imagine. They repeated what worked until their bones knew it. Only then did they move to Ha, and only after decades did they reach Ri. Today we're drowning in tools that make us look productive while keeping us safely untransformed. We curate playlists of learning motivation. We take notes we never reread. We screenshot wisdom instead of applying it. Modern learners are overfed and undertrained. Information rich, execution poor. So if you've ever wondered why you can't seem to master anything, despite all your effort, here's the unfiltered answer. You've confused motion for movement. You're sprinting in circles because it feels like running forward. The cure isn't more speed. It's stillness. It's choosing one discipline and dying to it for a while. It's the humility to live inside Shu until your foundations are bulletproof. Because the modern trap isn't that we're incapable. It's that we're impatient. And in the war between impatience and mastery, impatience always wins. Unless you learn to stop mistaking novelty for growth. And that's exactly why the next stage of this journey isn't philosophical. It's practical. It's where we build a plan, a real one, to reprogram your mind back into focus. The 30-day Shu protocol, rewiring discipline. Most people treat discipline like a personality trait, something you either have or you don't. But discipline isn't a personality. It's a system. And the foundation of that system is repetition done correctly. Shu teaches you how to repeat until the body learns faster than the mind. But to make that ancient principle practical in the modern world, you need structure. You need a method that slices through distraction and reprograms focus one rep at a time. That's where the 30-day Shu protocol begins. Here's the rule. For the next 30 days, you pick one skill, not 5, not 3. 1. The skill that if mastered would create disproportionate change in your life. Maybe it's writing persuasive content, speaking confidently, coding, drawing, or playing an instrument. The specific skill doesn't matter. The process does. Step 1. Choose your sensei. Find one teacher, one course, or one system that you'll follow religiously. No mixing, no cherry picking from 10 YouTubers. If you commit to multiple mentors, your brain never consolidates the rhythm of a single method. Pick one style and obey it completely, even if it feels limited. Remember, mastery hides inside boundaries. Step 2. Define perfection. Write down the 5 non-negotiables that define a correct rep. For example, if you're learning guitar, it could be finger placement, tone clarity, tempo, posture, and relaxation. If you're coding, it could be readability, efficiency, lack of bugs, proper comments, and function clarity. Without objective standards, you'll start confusing effort with effectiveness. Shu requires precision, not performance. Step 3. Commit to daily reps. 10 sets of 20 repetitions every single day. No days off. If quality slips, stop, rest, reset. Sloppy practice trains sloppiness. You're not practicing until you get it right. You're practicing until you can't get it wrong. And when you hit that moment, you'll notice something shift. Your mind goes quiet. That silence is your nervous system taking over. It's the birth of automaticity. Step 4. Record and reflect. Video yourself once a week, or write a short journal after each session. Don't evaluate emotionally. Evaluate mechanically. What improved? What degraded? What still feels awkward? The goal isn't to praise or punish. It's to gather clean feedback loops. Without feedback, repetition becomes mindless. The samurai had masters to correct them. You have a camera or mirror. Use it. Step 5. Protect the ritual. Modern life will try to interrupt you. Notifications, messages, urgent, distractions. That's why you need a ritual zone. Same time, same environment, every day. When you perform the same behavior in the same context, your brain begins to associate that environment with deep focus. This is how habit meets mastery. The more consistent your ritual, the faster your neural circuits adapt. Step 6. Embrace boredom. At some point around day 10 or 15, the novelty will die. This is the point where 99% of people quit. But if you push through this phase, something subtle happens. Your boredom transforms into awareness. You begin noticing micro improvements, smaller muscle tension, smoother transitions, better timing. The boredom wasn't a wall, it was a test. Step 7. Repetition without expectation. Don't look for progress daily. Progress hides. It grows in silence, invisible until one day it hits all at once. Your job is to show up. That's it. The Japanese call this keiko, practice that is done for its own sake, not for the dopamine of results. By the end of 30 days, you won't just be better at your skill, you'll have rebuilt your relationship with practice itself. You'll understand that focus isn't something you summon, it's something you train into existence. The Shu protocol is simple, but it's merciless. It strips away comfort, excuses and self-importance, until all that's left is repetition, accuracy, and patience. And once you've built that discipline, once you've truly obeyed without resistance, you'll have earned the right to move to the next level, the stage where obedience transforms into creativity. Because after you master structure, the next step is learning how to break it, intelligently, powerfully, and without losing the essence that built you. The 6-month Playbook, turning precision into power. By now, your repetitions have hardened into instinct. The sinks no longer demand conscious thought. You can perform them half asleep and still hit accuracy. That's the doorway to Ha, the stage where discipline transforms into freedom. But this freedom must be earned carefully, because Ha is where many learners implode. After months of obedience, the ego returns whispering, "You've mastered it. Time to do it your way." That whisper destroys more potential than failure ever will. Ha isn't rebellion for the sake of self-expression. It's the art of controlled contradiction, of experimenting while staying loyal to principle. The purpose of Ha is to move from copying technique to understanding truth. If Shu gave you foundation, Ha gives you fluency. You start learning the why behind every movement, every decision, every rule. Let's break it down into a 6-month Ha playbook, a framework that channels your growing precision into creative power without losing structure. Month 1. Controlled collision. Introduce one opposing method into your routine. If your first teacher was rigid and technical, study a second who's fluid and intuitive. The goal isn't to switch sides, it's to collide systems until you see the universal principle beneath both. For a fighter, that might mean mixing boxing footwork with Muay Thai kicks. For a designer, combining brutal minimalism with chaotic expressionism. You're not blending styles, you're extracting truth. Month 2. The Principle Notebook. Every time a rule works, write why it worked. Every time it fails, write why it failed. Over time, you'll start recognizing patterns: balance, timing, leverage, proportion, economy of motion. These are the invisible threads that tie every skill together. Once you understand them, you can bend any form without breaking it. Month 3. Constraint games. To master adaptability, limit yourself. Force your creativity to emerge from restriction. Write a paragraph without using adjectives. Play piano with only 2 fingers. Film a video using a single take. When you remove comfort, your instincts sharpen. The brain thrives on purposeful constraint. It's how new neural pathways form. Month 4. Style synthesis. Now begin to deliberately mix. Combine the best aspects of what you've learned. Keep the rhythm of your first mentor, but add the aggression of your second. Merge logic with flair. This is where your personal voice begins to form, not as a rebellion, but as a natural evolution. Month 5. Feedback Triad. Surround yourself with 3 types of people. Someone ahead of you to keep you humble, someone beside you to keep you sharp, and someone behind you to remind you how far you've come. Teaching the basics to others will expose your hidden blind spots faster than any textbook. If you can't explain it simply, you don't truly understand it. Month 6. The Showcase. Create something tangible. A song, a project, a fight, a design that fuses everything you've learned. Not to prove your worth, but to measure integration. Real mastery is integration under pressure. Perform when it counts, not when conditions are perfect. Throughout these 6 months, your mindset must shift from accuracy to adaptability. In Shu, you obsessed over correctness. In Hai, you obsess over context. You stop asking, "Am I right?" and start asking, "Does this work here?" That single shift transforms you from a technician into an artist. But beware, Hai is seductive. It feels powerful. You can create, combine, and improvise. Most people stop here, convinced they've reached mastery, but they haven't. They've reached competence with ego. True masters continue until even the ego dissolves again. Hai is the bridge between human effort and effortless creation. When you've played enough within the boundaries, you start sensing something larger, pulling you forward. A silent intelligence that begins to move through you. That whisper is the call to Riza, the final evolution, because real mastery doesn't end with expression. It ends when the expression happens without you. Re isn't magic, it's momentum. When most people hear about effortless mastery, they imagine something mystical, like enlightenment, divine talent, or genetic luck. But Re, the third stage of Shuhari, isn't a miracle. It's the natural momentum of years spent doing things the right way. You don't stumble into it. You grow into it, one disciplined layer at a time, until effort becomes unnecessary and mastery feels like breathing. You see this phenomenon everywhere, even outside traditional arts. A linguist who's lived inside a language for years no longer translates words in their head. They think in that language. A coder who's built 100 systems no longer drafts architecture diagrams. They see patterns forming before their fingers hit the keyboard. A powerlifter who's drilled form for a decade doesn't need to visualize cues mid-lift. Their nervous system executes perfectly. None of this is luck. It's what happens when repetition and understanding merge into instinct. Re is the moment the body stops asking the mind for permission. It's when the conscious self, always slower, always second-guessing, steps aside. In neuroscience, this is the point of automaticity and flow, the prefrontal cortex, which once barked instructions like a clumsy coach, goes quiet. Older, faster parts of the brain, the basal ganglia, cerebellum and motor cortex, take over. Your system is now optimized. You're not trying to control performance anymore. You are performance. But here's what's rarely said. Re isn't the death of learning, it's the rebirth of it. Once you reach effortless flow, you see the basics again, but they look different, alive, rich, nuanced. Masters return to fundamentals not because they've forgotten them, but because they finally see them clearly. This is why the greatest calligraphers still practice basic strokes, and world-class musicians still warm up with scales. The circle closes, but it's a higher loop each time. You don't escape the beginning, you transcend it. The trap is believing Re is about perfection. It's not. It's about unity. The artist, the tool, and the action become one. A surfer no longer calculates waves. They merge with the rhythm of the sea. A writer no longer chases words. The page fills itself. A martial artist no longer strategizes. The fight happens through them. This isn't magic. It's the ultimate result of aligned momentum. To reach this point, you must trust the process long after most people have quit. The distance between Ha and Re is measured not in hours, but in humility. Every failure becomes feedback. Every mistake a teacher. You begin to crave repetition, not novelty. The loop itself becomes satisfying. You stop chasing outcomes and start honoring rhythm. When you reach that space, time stretches, effort dissolves. There's no anxiety about the result, because the result is already happening through you. And this isn't limited to art or martial training. Re applies to business, relationships, and self-mastery. A seasoned entrepreneur doesn't calculate every decision anymore. They sense what will work because years of pattern recognition have rewired their intuition. A therapist with decades of experience doesn't rely on scripts. They listen so deeply that the right words emerge naturally. A stoic monk doesn't rehearse virtue. They live it without thinking. That's Re. The moment you stop chasing mastery and start embodying it, the moment practice no longer feels like practice, and the line between learning and living disappears. But here's the paradox. You can't force Re to arrive. You can't demand it, schedule it, or optimize for it. It only appears after you've given up the need to reach it. You don't climb into Re. You relax into it after climbing long enough to realize there was never a summit. The process itself was the point all along. When Aiko, our sushi apprentice, reached this place, she didn't feel triumphant. She felt quiet. She returned to washing rice, just like the first day, but this time, every motion felt sacred. That's what Re does. It doesn't elevate you above the ordinary. It transforms the ordinary into art. And that's the final secret of mastery. The end isn't brilliance. It's simplicity earned through years of disciplined momentum.